Humans of the cardboard, welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today we're doing another updated deck profile. This one is ABC, Therion, Adventure, plus even more goo that we have not seen just yet. This is my first deck profile making use of AFD, Ancient Fairy Dragon. This card is still really insane. I know it has the errata, but this card is like still functioning like arguably exactly the same in a lot of builds. So yeah, it's insane. I cannot wait to do more decks built around this card, or at least engines that can really make good use of this card, because I still think this card is really crazy. But yeah, this is like an updated version to ABC. If you're a fan of this deck, it was actually relatively good last year, probably like early to mid last year. But it kind of fell off a little bit when some of the other decks got a little better. And so it's kind of been on the back burner for a little bit. But I do think the new addition to some of the cards I'm playing here does help smooth out some of the rough spots of the deck. Sometimes the deck felt like it could be kind of clunky at times. It could kind of get stuck in certain lines where the deck didn't extend too great in certain spots. But I do think some of these new cards do help with some of those issues, which is very, very cool. So yeah, without further ado, let's just get into it. A lot of this is going to look similar to what you've seen before for like ABC decks until we get to obviously the spice. And then as we go, we'll also talk about a couple of really interesting things that I'm not playing here that we either could choose to play right now or stuff that could come up down the line. And then at the very end, I'll also throw out a couple of other options that Ancient Fairy Dragon could be very interesting in that I'm already starting to think about. All right, but let's get into this deck. A, Assault Core, B, Buster Drake, and C, Crush Wyvern. This is your basic lineup here. Some people will opt to play 3 Drake, but I don't recommend playing more than 2 of the other 2, and then 1 Union Driver. This card, if you don't play this card, it is a terrible brick, but if you don't play this card, then like you can't extend out of certain combo lines, so you do kind of have to play it. It's a necessary evil. From there, 2, Therion King Regulus. Pretty basic. We're playing a Therion deck. Cool. You know, with ABC stuff, you get a machine engrave pretty easily. So these are pretty easy to be live. Not too much else to say about that. And from there, we move to triple copies of Water Enchantress. Whoops, let's just put it like that. And then 1 copy of Griffin Rider. Yeah, pretty basic. I mean, we're just, you're playing a deck that doesn't have an activated normal summon effect. So you might as well play the you know, the Adventure engine. It really helps sure you up through stuff like Nib and even other hand traps as well. And yeah, if you're not getting to the Therion package, you don't really set up negates in this deck too much. So having an Omni Negate really helps insulate a lot of your plays. Definitely comes up. And for some of the spice, the new stuff that's really helping this deck, I think, take a step forward. 1 copy of Supreme King Dragon Darkworm and 1 copy of Destrudo the Lost Dragon's Frisson. Yeah, long story short, we're playing ways to dump these to grave. It really helps us extend. If we needed just a body, then you have Supreme King Darkworm. He's just a free level 4 on your field. And if you needed to get to AFD, that is Destrudo's best function here. We have multiple ways to get a send for Destrudo, and then obviously he will lead you into your AFD play. It's really nice. I mean, it's really nice card. I love this card. Also, like, puts itself back in deck, so it resets itself. So you could access it later on instead of like banishing it. But yeah, these guys are great. No complaints there. They really help you extend. I love them. And the last monsters to play here in the main deck are Triple Ash and 1 Veiler. The 1 Veiler looks weird. I know this looks really strange, but there is a monster in the extra deck that this card can kind of allow you to do certain cheeky lines with it, and we'll talk about that when we get there. So yeah, finishing up the monsters. From there, I do want to make note that you've kind of already seen the main packages that we're playing in the deck right now. The one that I chose to left out, and the one that you could kind of try and make room for, is Punks. I'm not sure exactly what ratio you'd be looking for, but the Punk engine is still really cool and really interesting. I was kind of worried that, like, technically your ABC pieces are your normal summons, so we're kind of already playing 6 normals, which means any more copies you kind of can add bricketry by adding, like, Xiamens and stuff, even though AFD is pretty nice at pulling them out of hand anyway, so there's still an argument to make room here for those. But yeah, just a really strong engine. Also, the extra deck is going to start to get tighter and tighter as you play an engine like this. You might want to make room for certain other extra deck monsters. That's kind of another worry, but Still a really strong engine, still an engine I might try to make room for at some point, but for right now, the deck feels pretty tight. I mean, I only really have, I think, 9 defensive slots, and everything else is more like engine stuff, so it's kind of a little tough. But yeah, just want to make note of that. Moving on to the spells. Here's your field spell lineup. Triple Union Hanger. It's the best field spell. It's like the one true starter card. The other ones are more extenders, but yes, it's really good. 2 copies of THERION Disc Coliseum and 2 copies of Dragon Ravine. Disc Coliseum is really good. Just gets you Regulus, just gets you in a gate, makes your board stronger, gives you potential floating and stickiness to your board as well. If you're going to end on it, I love it. And there's also Ravine. This is the field spell that not only is dumping your Destrudo or your Dark Worm, but also leaving you a field spell on field. So this could dump you into like a Dark Worm or a Destrudo, and then Destrudo's getting you the AFD, and then you already have a field spell on field to then connect to one of these, whichever one you didn't see that you did want to see, and go from there. So yeah, this card's really good. It's also a discard outlet, which could come up. I mean, Water Enchantresses or Destrudo / Dark Worm, if you open them and away to this, you're going to be able to dump one, dump the other, like pitch one from hand to dump the other, and then use them both, which is very nice. So yeah, I mean, there's an argument to play this one at 3. I wouldn't play probably Disc Coliseum at 3, but there's an argument to play Ravine at 3, just because you want to get access to AFD as much as you can. Very, very cool, though. A couple extra spells that just kind of help with extending and consistency. 2 copies of Shrine. This is just 2 more ways to dump the Dragon Boys into Grave. Really nice. 1 copy of Foolish Burial. This can dump, obviously, the dragons, but also can dump, like, Water Enchantress, an ABC piece, or a Regulus. That could definitely come up. And then, obviously, your field spell. Generic cards, Terraforming and Set Rotation. You gotta find those field spells, for sure. Rest of the, adventure package. 2 Rite of Eremacir, 1 Adventure, or Fateful Adventure, and 1 Draco back. Pretty standard there. Nothing too crazy going on with those. I was messing around with this. Now, I do want to note that I think right now in this specific format, these are not great. I almost prefer Tactics over Thrust. I think that's fine. The idea of Thrust, though, is that this deck plays a handful of, like, power spells. So if Thrust is live, you're able to, grab Terra. And Terra's just getting you either of your 3, field spell engines. Foolish Burial, obviously getting Rite of Eremacir. You can just search Rite of Eremacir if you want. There really are some powerful cards, then obviously like the genericness of Tactics, Talents, and what you're able to do with that. So it's a cool card. It's more concept than anything. I would say in this specific format, I would opt for something else and maybe side this. I think siding this would be pretty good when you know the matchup and like how live it's going to be. But I do think it's really interesting. You could play any 3 other defensive cards if you wanted and go from there. And the last 2 cards in the deck from the main, 2 Imperm. So this was 3, but then when I saw that like the Veiler might come up in specific instances, I was like, okay, that's a small concession you can make, but I still like Imperm overall in the format. So there you go. There's your main deck, 40 cards. It feels really concise. It feels very streamlined right now, like very similar to what we used to see for the deck, but then also just kind of toss in that little dragon package that really helps smooth out a lot of issues the deck might have had before. And moving to the extra deck. Sorry. 2 more things I want to consider. Mention to you for the main deck. Unauthorized Reactivation. It's quick play that helps with ABCs in general. It equips any Union monster to a machine from the deck. That can give you cool protection effects, but it can also help you extend with the ABCs, just getting them out, getting the right pieces in rotation so that you can get to ABC Dragon Buster. It's a cool card. I wouldn't play more than 2 of it because obviously that can get really bricky, but it's a cool card that can come up with ABCs. I don't know if this is the exact build I'd try to do it for, but like it's a cool card. And then Tuning. So Tuning's really interesting. It's more of a future card. I made a video the other day talking about Revolution Synchron and how crazy that card kind of is, but also Assault Synchron's another one. So we have 2 really good Synchron monsters, probably the best 2 Synchron monsters we've ever had in Yu-Gi-Oh! And this card searches those and then mills the top card of your deck. So you could even potentially super high roll and hit like a Water Enchantress or hit an ABC piece, hit a Dark Worm or a Destrudo. There's a couple things that are like really insane to mill. But for the most part, like just searching those is really cool. And then obviously they're really good extenders. I've already talked about the Revolution Synchron in that video and how it just straight up makes AFD with any level 4 on field and then revives itself, which is insane. And then Assault Synchron just being a really good level 2 extender as well for a tuner also could help us out. So we'll see, but this could be a really cool package to consider as well. So that's it for a couple other main deck recommendations, things to think about. Moving on to the extra. For fusions, it's just ABC Dragon Buster. 2 of this guy, you definitely need 2. 4 synchros. 1 Ancient Fairy Dragon, of course. 1 Shooting Riser Dragon. This is an alternate level 7 card that can come up. 1 Draco Berserker of the Tenyi. Cool generic Synchro 8 that is like a pretty good interruption, and also is decent going second as well. And then this would be Baron de Fleur. I don't have one. I'm going to get one, hopefully, from Maze of Memories when the card is just a bit more affordable than it's been. It's been at $100 for like a long time. But yeah, so here's the idea, right? Ancient Fairy Dragon is like your standard line that you're hoping for. But sometimes you are going to draw access to a level 7 play, right? You're either going to draw like Foolish Burial or Dragon Shrine or just hard draw Destrudo without seeing a field spell. If you don't see a field spell, Ancient Fairy can't do anything to search you, anything. So at that point, it's like a dead card, essentially, in the extra. So I wanted a secondary line to be able to go into that was pretty cool. So the idea with this guy is you can make him dump a Water Enchantress at the very least, or, you know, you could dump something else if you want. It could even dump like an ABC piece if you only had access to like 2 of them. It could give you access to the 3rd. But if you dump Water Enchantress, who's a 3, he will then become a 4, and then him plus any ABC piece will actually make a level 8 Synchro. So you could make your Berserker. On top of that, this is where the Veiler comes up. By sending Veiler, he becomes a 6, and then he can help you just make him plus an ABC piece, which is level 4, or a token, can just straight up make you, the Adventure token, can just straight up make a 10, so you could just make Baron. If you don't have Baron, you could definitely play Cheng-Ying, for sure. You have like Dragon Buster, which banishes cards. You have Berserker, which banishes cards. You have some things that banish cards, so you could definitely mess with that if you want. But small little synchro lineup that I thought was cool. Just a cool secondary option you can go into if you don't have access to a field spell to make AFD live, which can come up and probably will come up every once in a while. For links, the only link one I played was Claren Rushka. I'm not sure exactly how much this card's actually going to come up. People used to play this for ABCs because if you had a really bricky hand and you were like going second, you could like normal B, link it off, and then just go B effect to search. Go from there. But I'm not sure this card will actually come up. It's pretty cuttable, so definitely I'm open to brainstorm. I'm open to other ideas of cards that should be played over this potentially. Platinum Gadget, this card helps you with the standard ABC combos to pull them out of the hand. Barricade War Blocker, this card is a discard outlet, but also on end phase it just adds back any field spell, so that's kind of perfect for this deck. Just getting back like a Union Hanger and guaranteeing you a play next turn. It's pretty cool. IV Masquerena, part of your end board a lot of the time, and then the Nightmares. A lot of times once you kind of stop your opponent and they go to pass and you're just going to use Dragon Buster to summon back all the pieces on your next turn, you're just going to like link like crazy and just go pop, 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 and redraw with a bunch of the ABCs. So it's pretty cool. You can also make the Nightmares off of IP, which is cool. And for the big boys, Appaloosa and Underworld Goddess. I don't even know if you need access code in this deck. You could play it if you want. I'm just not necessarily sure how mandatory that's going to be, but whatever. Other than that, yeah, these are great. You can make them both off of IP, but they can also come up in their own right. Sometimes you can just hard make this turn 1 and hard make this to like out a problematic monster your opponent has on the field. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Really, really cool deck. Really excited to do more testing, not just with this deck, but with just any type of like AFD field spell deck. I remember seeing that deck way back from like late 2017, early 2018, I think, that was playing just like a bunch of different field spell engines using Ancient Fairy Dragon and Destrudo to like search through all those engines and just try to get them, as many of them live as possible. And it was a really, really cool deck to me when I saw it. So kind of in the same spirit of that, trying to figure out a new aged way to kind of have a similar vibe, but just be better, be faster, be more modern with that same vibe. But very, very cool. The other main options that I'm looking at right now, other than, of course, Punk. I mentioned Punk, and I think Punk has their own... it's a synchro deck that like could potentially facilitate AFD while also searching their own field spell, which is pretty good. And even potentially without a normal summon too, which is insane. We also have stuff like Trickstar. This is a really cool one because not only does Light Stage get you to this engine, but Candina also gets you to Light Stage. So like either way, you're able to, you know, both of these count as a way to the field spell, which is cool. But the problem is I worry if Trickstars have a good enough payoff to like be one of those engines. But we'll see. From there, you have Alistair. You have your Invoked engine. Obviously another really interesting engine. This one, obviously, like Dogmatica, Shadal could also be a part of this one, obviously. But we just need to figure out what the other field spell would be that's like actually worth it and like going to get you awesome value from there. And then I think one of the biggest ones, maybe the one with the most promise right now that's out in the game, is Scareclaw. The fact that every normal summon Scareclaw monster just gets you to the Link 1, which gets you to the field spell, is insane, right? And then once you go to the field spell searches you Reichart, if you didn't already have him, and then any way into a Synchro 7, like Destrudo, or like, you know, for example, when the new Revolution Synchron comes out, like this guy is your level 4 to kind of facilitate that. And then the engine just pluses a bunch. It can also play the Adventure engine. There's a lot to like here. Again, the question will be, what's the other field spell that you want to search? Because not every field spell is as good as the Therion field spell to just plus off and get like a free negate off of. So we'll have to figure out what that is, but very, very cool extra options there to mess around with. But yeah, that's it. I mean, that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching as always. Let me know your thoughts down below. This is just the first build with the new AFD stuff, and trying to figure out the right direction to go. I'd love to hear where you guys are at with these ideas, with these decks, and can't wait to hear it. But I'm out of here for today. Thank you so much for watching as always, guys. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see more stuff from me down the line. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.